Arc Raiders. The new cool kid on the block in the extraction shooter genre has been making some massive waves in the gaming community, and not for no good reason. But there are some out there that still seem to believe it's merely just a carbon copy of games that came before it, with just a few minor tweaks here and there, plus a shiny new coat. So, if you're one of those misguided souls, or you just haven't had the opportunity to play the game for yourself, then let me tell you that this game is not just another extraction shooter. It is the extraction shooter. It has clearly revolutionized the genre. It has taken the expectations and standards that many people had for the genre and obliterated them so hard you'd think they were bent over backwards and blasted by a Super Saiyan level Kamehameha wave. But I get it. I was skeptical too at first. After all, having seen so many conceptually enticing games, or major updates for that matter, result in disaster, largely due to what I can only describe as just sloppy work by the development teams behind them, you sort of become conditioned to not get your hopes up, as to avoid the heartbreak. But thankfully, after watching countless hours of footage from previous playtests, waiting for something to scratch my extraction itch, and finally getting to experience it myself in the server slam that just took place, everything clicked. I didn't just enjoy my time on the game, I was left awestruck and feel like I got a pretty solid understanding of some of the primary things that really make this game just so special. And to put it simply, this could all be boiled down to the fact that the developers have clearly demonstrated that they actually did their research and understand what it takes to really make an extraction game just so fun, intense, rage-inducing, addicting, and replayable all at the same time. But to really drive it home, I'm going to rather speedily go through each of these categories and give some examples that really illustrate the point. So, if you're still on the fence about the game, or maybe you're just patiently, but not desperately of course, who would do that, waiting for October 30th to roll around,
I don't need it. I need it!
then strap in, because this video is going to be perfect for you. Now, if I could only use one word to describe my perception of the developers or the decisions they have made within the game, it would be calculated. And this is clearly evident in the PvP as well. Let me explain. See, if you've played extraction games before, then you know that the time to kill is an incredibly important factor in whether or not the PvP is enjoyable, and oftentimes games seem to end up too far on either side of the spectrum. The problem with this is that when the time to kill is too quick, it can result in a very frustrating experience, because who wants to lose their entire kit without even being able to react? This in turn then pushes people to play more like rats, and instead of moving around the map to create engagement and fun moments with other players, they would rather sit laying prone behind a door or tucked away in a corner of a dark room. On the flip side, when you have a time to kill that is too long, it creates almost the opposite effect, where people are less likely to engage with PvP altogether, and I believe this stems from two primary issues. The first of which is that skilled players will rarely put themselves in a position where they even have the chance to die, which results in fights that drag on for an obscenely long time, which then draws the attention from other players in the lobby, which then in turn just ends up with you getting third-partied in the end. Secondly, the players that are aware of this will just not even contemplate PvP at all, and instead they'll run around gobbling up all the loot with a predetermined loot route, and the moment someone even tries to engage with them in PvP, they will just aggro a bunch of AI that gets in between them and the enemy, and then just run away forever, essentially wasting the other player's time until they accept defeat and just give up. One thing that a lot of these games have in common, but don't share with Arc Raiders, is a vast variance in the type of armor you can bring into a raid. In some games, the variance is so large that it even requires multiple different gear score brackets to be created, which is almost impossible to come back from and ultimately fragments the player base, which can then have extremely negative effects. In comparison, Arc Raiders has a minuscule amount of variance in the degree of armor you can bring into a raid, which allows the developers to closely monitor and easily adjust the time to kill in a way that will hit all players evenly, which has already landed them really close to the sweet spot in between the two extremes, which in my opinion is the best place to be. This creates combat that in squad play feels very akin to Apex Legends actually. When two teams meet at a distance, the first team to land some shots and crack shields will take the advantage. They should then push forward to take space and create new angles, while the other team now has to fall back and either look for an opportunity to swing the fight or get a full reset and restart in neutral. This type of PvP relies heavily on positioning, game knowledge, and situational awareness, which often leads to very fun encounters. I think it would be fair to say that the PvE side of the game has been a little bit controversial following the recent server slam. Even I myself was rather critical of the Rocketeer for my first 2 days until I realized you could almost annihilate him with a single Wolfpack grenade or even stun him with a showstopper. These are things I would have likely learned in the previous tech tests if I had the opportunity to play them. Thankfully though, as far as I'm concerned, thematically and conceptually, the AI already seems award-winning even on a bad day, and I'd argue you're probably delusional if you were to say otherwise. The only potential issue I see with the AI enemies would actually just be a numbers issue. Potentially, once again, too much health, too much damage, too high of frequency, or a mixture of all three. However, I'm rather heavily leaning on the word potentially there, because I'm quite confident that with access to the full game, which will bring improved loadouts, crafting, and essentially just a higher average of player power across the board, that this won't end up being the case. And if it is still, it will be far less severe as some people currently believe it to be. Let's face it, your average player was running around with a common rattler and Pharaoh, maybe a wingman if they're lucky, with little access to utility throughout the server slam, and by virtue of this, the AI is going to feel much stronger than they truly are. Whereas 4 weeks into the first wipe/expedition project thing, whatever you'd like to call it, the AI will likely feel significantly more manageable. It's unlikely to be perfect, as are most things on the launch of a brand new game, but there are genuinely games that have been out for half a decade or longer who have legitimately 10 times worse AI implementation, so I wouldn't get my jimmies in a twist over it personally. Now, it's no secret that loot is a core part of extraction games. One could even argue that it's really the major catalyst for all of the dopamine that comes from the game. After all, getting a kill on another player would be significantly less exciting if you couldn't actually take their loot as a result. Oh, this got an Osprey. Oh my. But simultaneously, loot can also be a significant pain point when it's executed poorly. For example, having to play Tetris in your inventory just to collect your hard-earned loot isn't fun for anyone, and you could argue that this is done to prevent people from just scooping loot and running. But as Arc Raiders has shown us, there are other solutions to that besides forcing the player to play Tetris. They have solved both problems in a way that doesn't compromise the quality of life of the player by keeping all items one slot so you'll never have to play Tetris, but by also making items have a short loading/searching time. This prevents people from being able to scoop up an entire inventory in 1 second and just run away. If you're unsure why that would be a problem, then the best 2 examples I can give you is if a teammate of yours dies, they could just surrender immediately so you could scoop their entire kit and then go extract without the people that killed your teammate having much of an opportunity to stop you. And then it also prevents people from ratting around fights, just waiting for a brief moment to swoop in and steal loot even though they aren't actually part of one of the 2 teams that are currently fighting, which was an extremely prolific issue in games like Dark and Darker. Beyond that, they've also added a plethora of features that expedite the core gameplay loop as it pertains to looting. Adding an option to transfer all the loot to your stash at the end of a raid, a multitude of ways to quickly sort, organize, and even categorize the loot in your stash, being able to quickly sell items directly from your stash, and even different item types/categories with optional filters to go along with them to make looking through your stash an absolute breeze. Even all the way down to the small inventory space in-game, albeit which can feel annoying at first, But after thinking about it some more, I think I realized just how smart of a decision that really was. By limiting the amount of items someone can bring into or out of a raid, this does two main things in my eyes. Firstly, it speeds up the average length of each match by allowing people to get in and get out rather quickly, but still feeling like they had a successful haul since they were more than likely still able to fill up their inventory. Secondly, which is a bit more sneaky, but likely much more important, is that it actually slows down and helps keep the rate of player progression in check. Which might sound weird at first, but give me a second to elaborate. Unexpectedly, one of the saddest moments for an extraction player is actually getting to the point where they have everything they want and in excess of it at that. Because at that point, you lose all of the risk, suspense, and intensity that makes the game just so addicting. Bringing in a juicy purple weapon feels like you're about to dive out of an airplane whenever it's the only purple weapon in your stash, but if you've got an endless supply of juiced weapons/kits, then you lose that gear fear, so to speak, and lose out on a massive amount of what actually makes you want to keep playing. Not to mention, there are many other problems that arise from this as well, and just to name one that gets a lot of people rather angry, is people who get insanely wealthy extremely early into a wipe, and then limit themselves to the sole purpose of spawn rushing and hunting down other players that are oftentimes significantly less geared than them. In a sense, they're just ruining other people's experiences at that point. To sort of tie all of that together to hopefully help it make some more sense, the limited inventory space actually results in a shit ton of loot being left behind in every single lobby. It's rather common to basically win one 3v3 fight and then find that your whole team now has full inventories and are ready to extract, which means that if you were to run around and kill other players, you would then either have to not loot them or make some sort of calculation about what to drop/what to pick up. And ultimately, all of this loot that ends up getting left behind in each lobby is what is going to slow down the rate of player progression and or sort of keep a lid on the economy, if you will. And finally, yes, even when it comes to extracting, their decisions still seem very calculated. Speaking from personal experience here, one of the most annoying things in an extraction game is losing not only your entire kit, but also everything you just spent roughly 20 minutes looting throughout a raid because you are simply unable to locate an available extract in time, which especially for newer players happens far too often in most extraction games. In Arc Raiders, they've taken a rather simple approach, but it actually works out very well. First off, they clearly show you where the available extracts are and how long they will remain active on your map, which doesn't sound like much, but when you've played Tarkov or Dark and Darker, you can likely appreciate the fact that an in-game map is available right from the jump, and it's also extremely detailed. Secondly, all of the normal extracts are not confined to a player limit, so if you want to extract with your whole team, another team, or shit, even the whole lobby after you teamed up to kill the queen, then that option is available to you. Additionally, extracts are open from the start of the match, so if you make a mistake with your loadout, randomly realize you don't have time to play out the raid, or you just want to loot the nearest point of interest from your spawn and immediately leave, then those options are also available to you. And finally, they have even added personal extracts in the form of raider hatches, which provide players a safer option where they are less likely to encounter any issues while trying to extract, which is perfect for those people that are bringing in really high value loadouts. And I know I've probably mentioned it a few times already throughout this video, but these seem like really minute things, like, oh, you have an in-game map, what's the big deal? But it's really one of those things that you actually take for granted when you do have it, and then when you don't, you realize just how annoying and tedious very mundane things like heading to an extract can become. And that's going to wrap up the video. I think it's pretty reasonable to say that I'm super excited for Arc Raiders and clearly believe that it is a one-of-a-kind game whenever it comes to the extraction genre, of course. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please make sure to subscribe, and I'll catch you Raiders topside.